It's time for a healthy dose of According to the Castles. And now, please welcome your hosts, Amy and Trey Castles.
Hello, it's Amy Castles.
What it is.
So Trey is over here stewing right now because I just told him about 5 seconds before we went on air that the middle freezer was left open and we lost all of that food.
I haven't lost it.
Well, it's all thawed out. I'm just curious how many people have had this happen. I mean, surely this is...
Well, hold on. Let's preface where most of the frustration's coming from. While we were on vacation last week, one of the kids left the freezer door open to all of our deer meat. So this isn't the fact that it just happened randomly. This is the second time in 5 days with two of our freezers and all of our food.
Yeah. Okay, but this middle freezer has been notorious. I mean, how many times? Probably 6 or 7 times.
The last few times it's happened is because there has been things put at the bottom that don't allow it to close properly, i.e. factor meal.
Yeah, but even before that, this freezer,
ice packages that you choose to keep for whatever reason.
Listen, no, I mean, I'm sure all the moms listening can agree that a good ice pack is, that is golden when you have kids. But this middle freezer is older and it doesn't suction closed really well. So we need another one. It's just the bottom line. But yeah.
So we need to get a new freezer because we can't close it properly when the one that was next to it's brand new and closes properly.
Now,
and still got left open.
Evan just left that wide open. So
I think we need a new freezer. I think we need new people working.
We need latches on the freezer. I don't know how many people have had lost a freezer, but it is a pain in the butt. Now, the freezer that we lost last week, where all the stuff inside, it was probably about 50 pounds of meat. And we end up cooking all of it. We had a friend come over. She helped us. Thank you, Denise, if you're listening. And we cooked so much meat. The funny thing is that we cooked up all this fajita deer meat and then tasted it and almost threw up. It was disgusting.
It was bad.
It was so bad.
It was really bad.
But I think that there was some older stuff mixed in. I don't know. That was just nasty.
No, some of that stuff was over 2 years old.
Yeah.
And it needed to just be done.
Okay, so I want to cover a bunch of different topics today. Just want to get y'all caught up on what's been going on in our life. We've had some guests on the show and we haven't really talked personally about what's been going on. And y'all had heard us talk a few weeks ago about us starting the marriage course called Reengage. And it is a 16-week weekly program that we go to at our church. We go Sunday mornings. It's from, what time is that? 9 o'clock to like 10:15. And they have a different topic that they talk about each week. And then you have homework that you do, and then you're supposed to discuss it. So what do you think about how it's going so far?
I like it.
Yeah. That's it. I said, what do you like about it so far?
No, you said, what do you think about it so far?
Oh, what do you think about it?
And I said, I liked it.
Okay. Let me see if I can ask a better high mileage question. What has been your biggest takeaways from it so far?
Well, it was going back to the episodes back in last year when we had our debate over where we wanted to go and what we wanted to do. I didn't want to do it. And whenever we did,
shocker.
I wanted to do something, but not that.
Mm-hmm.
And then having agreed to it, with everything going on at the first of this year through January, I really wasn't putting in a lot of effort. And it wasn't until we got on the plane to Dominion and I had a 4.5 hour flight. We had a 4.5 hour flight, and I literally did chapters 1 through 6, and I'm like, oh. This is kind of nice.
Learn something here.
This actually has some good stuff in it, and it started to break down some walls. It started to kind of open up some areas that I was kind of reserving to myself to be upset about, and it started to work.
Okay.
Is that what you want to hear?
Sure. Yeah. So let me back up and give y'all a little backstory. So basically, here's the way it works. You get a workbook, okay? And then every single week there's a lesson. And what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to do the homework by yourself and then discuss it with your spouse. And then you go on Sunday and then y'all dig into that particular topic a little deeper. You watch a video and then they split everybody up into 2 groups. And then they have things that they talk about and you can discuss or share if you want to. And a few weeks ago while we were there, before we went to the Dominican, it was so funny because there's this older couple and very sweet older couple. And I'm sorry, I cannot retell a story without speaking in the same accent that she's spoken. So look, Trey's like breathing. Okay. So this older man, he's sitting there and he's got his arms crossed. Okay. And he's a real tiny man. He's a tiny man. She's a larger, like fuller figured older woman. And she is sitting there and she has her arms crossed. And they both have this kind of look on their face. Like he's like kind of smiling, but kind of sitting there and she's just kind of mad looking. And then she goes, I just need to share something. She goes, he's not doing any of his homework. I ask him every single week if he's going to do his homework and he says, I don't have time. Well, I think that's a load. And
as
then
soon as she said that, though, I was looking it down like, oh God, please don't bring this over to me. Please don't bring it over because I hadn't done any of it either.
I mean, she totally threw him under the bus. Like I didn't know that we were allowed to do that. So I'm like rubbing my hands together.
Hold on. What do you mean allowed to do that?
I didn't know.
Well, we're not allowed.
Well, I didn't.
And I'm glad you didn't.
I thought we were supposed to go in like, hide all of our crap, but just, talk about the stuff.
We'll have to do a Facebook post and show the highlights.
No.
Can't get into the dirt.
I didn't know that we were allowed to throw each other under the bus. And she like kicked that man under the bus. But you know what? He took it. He goes, it's true. I just don't.
Haven't done anything.
I haven't really done it. I don't know why. I just don't want to.
He's like, I think about it, but I don't do it.
And this is a couple that's in their 70s and they've been married for 2 years.
Yep.
And which is really cool that they're both on their second marriages. They both lost their spouses before, but they're doing this, this course and putting in the effort, and they're very sweet. But I was like, whoa, she just.
You just like the fact that she had the cojones to throw her husband under the bus from
so I'm like rubbing my hands
to
together and I'm like, oh yeah. And I'm like getting shifted up in my seat. But the reality is that I actually was hurt. I really was, that Trey hadn't done crap in his book. Like I did almost all of my homework, but Trey hadn't done anything.
And we sat.
And I told him too.
We said, no, you didn't.
I did. I told him, I said, well, I basically said, what did I say? I don't even remember the words I said.
I don't remember what you said.
I said, I am in the same boat as you. I said, I'm in the same boat as you. And I feel the exact same way that you are. And I was looking at her. And then you spoke up and said, and I feel the same way as about you. And then it came out that you haven't done any of your homework. And then I was crying. And then you didn't care at all. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't remember that.
You don't remember what?
I had the entire time that I've procrastinated on all of this, I was trying to find a window of opportunity to sit down and actually focus on it. Mm-hmm. And the only time I could come up with, as the weeks were going by and the days were going by and they were just so crammed, it was going to be on the plane. And we didn't sit next to each other on the plane. So I already had it in my head. I was going to spend the entire time it took to do all 6 chapters and then have it ready. Mm-hmm. So if and when you wanted to ask me, hey, have you, and be snarky and kind of, jab that you haven't done anything, I'd be like, oh, well, I have it right here. Did you want to discuss it?
Okay. So let's back up a little bit more. So now you know that kind of backstory. Meanwhile, in other news, the beginning of the year happened. We had our Christmas party. We've had weddings. We went out of town. Things have been very stressful at work for Trey. Getting the year started, there was some changes and stuff. It was just a stressful time at work. And
still is.
It still is. And that was coming home. And him and I were not communicating very well. We were not communicating well. And it seemed like, and still does a little bit, that everything turns into an argument. That's the flow that we...
You want to talk about why we argued yesterday?
We will get there.
Oh, okay.
We were in this just funkiness for the first couple of weeks. And then there were things that he did that triggered me, and back and forth. And It wasn't good. And I started to, I also had a neck pain. I had a neck pain that was from my trap all the way up the left side of my neck, and it just pierced into my head and felt like somebody was stabbing my eye. And it was like that for about a week and a half. And it was absolutely horrible. And it was like that the whole time on our flight to the Dominican. It was there. And when I woke up the next morning, well, that next morning I get up. My favorite part about going to the beach is sitting on the patio, journaling and looking at the ocean in the early morning after the sun has risen. Wait, the sun rose? Rise?
Details.
The sunrise? After the sunrise?
Just after you continue, yes.
Yeah. That is my favorite part about vacation, okay, is the morning time and having that quiet time. So Trey comes out there and he comes to talk to me. And he's all like, wagging his tail, right? Because he's like so proud of his book that he finished. You were practically like waggling your butt, like, oh yeah, look at me. So he comes out there and comes to talk to me, and I just kind of open up and share a little bit about what's in my book. But then he was really asking me some deeper questions, and I said, you know what? The best way for me to describe what's going on in me is for me to read you my journal. And I wasn't planning on reading him my journal. So it was a little ugly because, that's my conversation between me and the big man upstairs. Wasn't including Trey, but it was about Trey. Well, it was kind of raw and kind of ugly. And I decided to go ahead and just read that to Trey. And I did. Why are you looking like that?
I didn't think it was that bad.
Oh, well, it was. I mean, I can make it worse if you want me to. I mean, I held back probably about 10%, but
Jeez.
just in case anybody found it,
Okay.
No, I'm kidding. But I'm not kidding. The second that I shared with you the way that I was feeling, what was going on in my mind, the neck pain disappeared. I mean, I'm talking, y'all, a week and a half, chiropractic, medication, anything I could think of to get relief in my pain, in this neck and in my head. I was doing it. And like that, gone, just gone.
Because you shared?
Yeah. But it goes to show how much emotion that's trapped in your body it's literally trapped in your body. It's like a painful cancer that just eats away at you. And I needed to let that go. And that's a whole other subject, which we're going to have somebody on to talk about that at some point.
Can't wait.
Huh?
I said I can't wait.
Hey, you've had some trapped emotions in your body before
I
that
let
you've
them
gotten
all
out.
out.
Oh,
Too much sometimes.
you've had a lot of stuff that you've kept in there for years. And then but it's once you release it that you realize how significant it was. You know what I mean? But okay.
Yes, I agree.
So do you have any comments about that day?
I was very glad that you freed yourself from your troubles.
Jeez. Okay. All right. So that day, I placed pretty much all the blame on Trey. In my book, in my journal, I placed it all on Trey and told him and shared with him all the ways in which he's hurt me, triggered me, and made me feel a certain way. And after that, there was something that didn't feel right within me. And he was gone. He had to go to meetings. So I had the whole day to really just, actually, you know what? Hold on a second. It was not that day. We had a great day that day. It was the next day that you and I were walking on the beach. And I said, I think I'm going to go back to body pump. I want to go take some body pump classes.
Oh, yes. I remember.
And we're having this happy conversation, which, by the way, we're walking and we ran into, what is his name?
Troy Aikman.
Yeah, we ran into Troy Aikman.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
He didn't shake Trey's hand. He kind of like.
It was a polite shun.
It was a polite shun. He politely shunned him.
He said it was nice to meet you both.
He did. He was jacked.
He was.
He is. He
kind of threw my shoulders back a little bit when I was next to him.
Oh, yeah. Did you check your chest hair? Make sure you have to do this.
No, I didn't do that.
Oh, okay. Anyway, so we're walking on the beach. I tell Trey that I want to teach, or that I want to go take a body pump class. I used to teach body pump for like 15, 17 years, something like that.
Long time.
And I loved it, but I don't teach it anymore. I'm not even certified anymore. And then Trey I was excited like to be like, yeah, I'm going to go back to Body Pump and take it on Wednesday mornings at Fitness Project. And then he says, just do me a favor. Don't teach it. And I was like,
I thought that was a very innocent, way of presenting a fear of mine that would come back from the past.
Yeah. Well, I took offense to it because I'm like, why? Are you okay? Yeah. Oh, sorry. Okay. Wait, wherever this minute is, 9:30. All right. I was thinking to myself, well, hold on a second. What if I did want to teach it? And why would that affect you if I did want to teach it? And then it brought up something in me. And I told him, I said, you know what? There are a lot of things that I've wanted to accomplish and I've told you about and shared with you. And you kind of shut it down really, really quick. And he goes, I've always supported you. And I told you, yeah, you have, but I've had to fight for it. And that did not end the walk very well. I can't remember what happened after that. I think it was. Oh,
you went your way, I went my way. Cause I'm like, I'm what I said, I felt I wanted to say, and I didn't feel that it was being offensive or being a dream crusher or doing any of that. I felt that we were all healed from that and that it was okay for me to say that.
Mm-hmm. Well, what I shared with you next that I felt like you kind of like just shunned anything that I wanted to do. And Trey kind of has this thing where he's like, don't you just want to like just be at home with the kids and do the stuff with the kids and the podcast and that's it. And I'm like, there's a lot of things that I want to do outside of the kids. I am not everyone's personal assistant. And I feel like that sometimes. I feel like a maid, a personal assistant, a chef, a driver, and
it's parenting. We're both like that.
I understand, but you also have your outlet and I want my outlet too. And I think that's important. And I have the podcast, but there are other things outside of the podcast that I still am doing and would like to do. So that did not end up too well in the conversation, but okay, I'm going somewhere with this. I promise you. So I basically came the next day. We went to dinner that night. I wasn't going to go, actually. I was actually just going to stay in the room and do my own thing, but he talked me into going. I'm glad I did. We had fun with the group. And then the next morning, he was just up and gone to the meetings. And then I basically had some time to myself. I went to a yoga class on the beach. I went to a meditation yoga class, and I had some time to think with myself. And basically what it boiled down to is I had felt like Trey was trying to control me and I didn't like it. But then I realized, wait a second, I also try to control him too. All those reasons that I shared with him as to why he triggered me in the first place, like what I read to him in my journal, what that was about was things that his actions. And just to give you so you can understand, is it okay if I tell them that you've had addiction issues?
It is what it is.
Okay. Trey's had addiction issues, drugs, alcohol. There's been substance that has been within our marriage and our time together. I mean, we've been together since I was 19. He was 23. There's been a lot of crap in there. And so
24 years of bliss, honey.
Yeah. Thank you for my Valentine's Day of dry erase markers.
There was a charger in there.
He gave me dry erase markers for Valentine's Day. You're so sweet. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, and some flowers. Thank you.
Like markers.
Yeah. Basically what I had to come up with, or what I came up with was, wow, I am trying to control him and his actions. Every time he has a drink of alcohol, it triggers me. Even though it's just one or two, I have a major fear that starts to come up, a fear that it's going to get out of control, or it's going to affect him the next day. It's going to affect his mood. It's going to affect his mind. It's going to affect his inflammation. And the same goes for when he eats gluten or sugar. When he's quit alcohol or drugs, he went to sugar. Okay. So just so you can understand There's been substance in there. And I had to just realize, wait a second, this burden on me is way too much to carry. I can't do it anymore. Where the hell is it coming from? And it all boils back to fear. It's fear of being abandoned, fear of being lonely. And I started thinking about that. Well, why the hell would I be fearful of being abandoned? Why would I be fearful of being lonely? And I started thinking about it. And I was like, this is where you have to sit down when you are really working through emotions. You have to sit down with a journal and you have to pray about it and ask God to show you, like, what is it? What is it? And the abandonment, fear, and loneliness came up. And when was I abandoned? Well, duh, I was abandoned as a child. I was abandoned by my father. And I had this memory pop up where he did come to Texas to see us. And we had a good visit. We went down to Galveston, and I remember him driving off. And I remember just standing there in the driveway. I was probably like 9 or 10 years old. It's crazy. You think that things don't affect kids until they're adults, but obviously they do. So I remember feeling that, and I remember feeling lonely. Well, the way that I react towards Trey when he drinks even just a couple of glasses of wine or a drink or whatever, or I react by pulling away. I react by isolating myself. I separate myself from him kind of as a means of self-protection, but also punishment too to him. And which is not fair for him because I'm actually not giving him forgiveness and I'm not giving him grace, which is what our Reengage talks about. And I'm also pinning my own trauma from my own childhood on him. So I realized that that abandonment was still in me, and I needed to work through that healing. And I can't control him and his actions. At the end of the day, he has to have his own consequences, and I cannot punish him because it also punishes me. When I punished him to pull away, it was punishing me and bringing up those same feelings, which I would fester on and fester on. So those couple of weeks before we left for the Dominican, yeah, I had pulled away. I was feeling lonely, and I felt so much pain in my neck and in my face. And so I had to be humble, which was like lesson number 4 or 3 in the Reengage.
Humility.
I had to have humility, and I had to tell him, I had to say, hey, this is what I've been doing. These actions that you've had, I've reacted in this way, and I can't control what you do anymore, and I don't want to. I don't want that burden. It's not my job. What you do is with your body is up to you. I don't ever want you to feel judgment about the things that you eat or drink, because I damn sure wouldn't want anybody looking over my shoulder, watching what I eat or drink. That is extremely personal. So now I'm like, oh, let go of that guilt. But I told him that, and I told him, I said, I don't care anymore. I'm breaking you free, and I'm breaking myself free. It is not my burden. It is not my issue. It is not your issue.
I'm like Mel Gibson in Braveheart.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then I had to share with him all of that in the Dominican, and I did on the beach, and it felt good to get out. And I've honestly felt a lot of freedom.
Well,
that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
I'm very thankful for you sharing. Your story was always different from my story. And, I take responsibility for my actions and what I've done. And that's what I felt like I'd been working on the last several years, and all the journeys I was taking and the steps I was doing to, free myself from my own guilt and shame and things that I've done in my life that have hurt you or hurt the kids or hurt myself or hurt others. And, I felt confident I was in a very stable place. And I just felt like there was always this shadow over me that, you know, couldn't get away from that past. And so when you shared that with me, I was very thankful to actually understand in words now the feelings that I think we both have felt. And when you got to release that, it got to release that same thing for me, because, you know, I don't like hurting you. I don't like, you know, hurting anyone. And to know that you were holding on to that and you were trying to do those things, you know, it was hard. It sucked to know that. And so having you have freedom from that gave me so much freedom from it, because I've always felt that. And I didn't like it, but there was also things that I did to you that you didn't like. So it was just this kind of, we were caught in a loop. We were just caught in this big loop of trapped emotions
for like
from the past.
20 years.
24 years being together, you know, there's a lot that goes into that. And, you know, one of the things that makes us who we are is we don't quit. We keep fighting. We figure things out, and we do it through what we just did, which was communication. But as we've gotten older, it seems like our pride and ego gets more in the way, and we don't share as much as we used to. And I like that we're getting back to that, because what this Reengage is doing is it's teaching us how to truly be a husband and wife under the guidance of God and what he wants from us and who he wants us to be and what his will is for our marriage. And when you start, you know, centering yourself under that, that's where humility and service and love and grace and compassion comes in. And it's like, there's no room for anything else. If you have that in your heart, it pushes everything else out. And then you can look at each other with adoring eyes again, like we used to. And I see glimpses of that. And I see it, I feel it. It's just now becoming consistent in it, because it's a discipline. And I'm willing to do it.
I'm just, and this is just being honest, I'm going to have to really keep myself in check, because there are going to be times where you may drink too much again. And that is very triggering to me.
Okay.
Just because of the amount of hurt that has taken place in the past that involved alcohol. It's the person on the other side really gets into a high stress survival type of state. And that is why there's a program called Al-Anon, because there's a AA for the drinker. And I don't think, and I'm not saying Trey is an alcoholic at all. I don't believe that he is, but I do believe that he's abused it. But the Al-Anon program is basically for anyone who has a problem with someone else's drinking. Like if you have a problem with someone else's drinking, it doesn't matter if it's your neighbor, your brother, your sister, your spouse, your child, doesn't matter. If you have a problem with someone else's drinking, then
not just drinking, it's also just substance, any type of substance abuse.
I think it's specifically alcohol. But then that program is great for you, and they're teaching you how to find your own happiness regardless of someone else's choices. And that is the bottom line, is that Trey had a moment this year where he drank way too much and he couldn't stand up. And that triggered me a lot.
Fair.
A lot. And it brought back all of those feelings that I ever had of many, I have more situations that I can count where alcohol was in the picture that ruined the event or the day or whatever. And from my perception. So yeah, it threw me back. But there may be a time again where you get like that again, or it's an accident. It was just one of those things.
I wouldn't say anything's an accident. They're choices.
Yeah.
It's a poor choice.
It was, yeah. But you also dealt
accidentally done.
You dealt.
I didn't trip over it.
He dealt with his own consequences.
But that was, I don't feel, yes. In that moment, it triggered you because you saw what I had worked so hard to get away from. But for me, I needed to look at what happened and move past it and not have the shame and the guilt.
Yeah.
And keep moving, because that's not me. That's not going to define me. That was a moment, that was a choice, and I recognized it, and I moved forward. Now, the trauma that it brought up for you, I'm glad you see it in that light, that it wasn't something that, I mean, I don't even know how to express it. It wasn't anything that was purposely done, and it's not something that I'm going to go seek to try and do again. So for you to have recognized that and start to have some healing from it, it's good.
Next time I'm going to just laugh at you.
You're going to laugh at
I'm
me?
going to take videos.
Well, I would.
And then post them. No, I'm kidding.
I don't know what a next time.
Well,
looks like,
I hopefully there won't be a next time. But when you were the way that you were,
you took a
I
video
was
of me.
so, yeah, to show you, I did. But I was like stewing angry. Like I was inside myself. I was so angry at you and just so mad that you would do this. I wanted to just.
How dare you?
Oh, I mean, the stuff that was going through my mind was unreal. I was beside myself, mad and disgusted. And I just like, I mean, I'm talking hours and hours of this just rolling through. So the hatred.
Can you tell me a little bit more about how you feel?
Yeah. But here's the thing. It wasn't, if it had just been that day or that night, then and then there was no more alcohol to like re-trigger. So then when we came back home and then there was
to me,
another normal glass of wine though, then it was like I'm like, how you just had a huge episode that you just slipped up on, and then all of a sudden, and then now you're having like a glass of wine for 4 nights in a row. And so, but here's the thing. It doesn't matter because it's not my issue. Okay. You know, when you say my circle, I'm in your circle. I mean,
you're not supposed to be in my circle. You have your circle and I have my circle.
Okay.
That's part of Reengage.
Yeah, they say worry about your circle. Okay, I am. I'm worried about my circle. This is the thing. I don't care anymore. You do what you want with your body. It's not my problem.
Boom. Gluten, here we come, baby. Get me a nice little hamburger.
Trey's gonna get him a steak
French
with all the
fries,
rolls, dessert,
and a cookie.
and a glass of wine.
Big old cookie.
Oh man. Okay. So hopefully that wasn't too heavy for you today. We had some good conversation
I'm
there.
glad we got it out.
Yeah. So the last thing that I wanted to talk about real quick, because we got to go, and is Avery surgery. So my daughter had her sinus surgery, and I'm actually tomorrow. We had Dr. Kevin Smith on here. So Dr. Kevin Smith, he is the founder of the Smith Sinus Migraine Institute. And we are hoping and praying that this is the answer to my migraines. And he says that he says my migraines are going to disappear. So I'm 75% hopeful. He's cured 8,500 patients. If you know me,
he's done 8,500 surgeries and helped with their deviated septums. I don't know if he's cured 8,500 people from migraines.
That's my understanding. So I know that's a lot.
I'm very hopeful and optimistic, but I also have some reservations. And not being Debbie Downer, dream crusher, but
dream crusher.
We have definitely gone through a 24-year journey of multiple different opportunities like this that we feel and think, okay, this is going to be the one.
Yeah.
Regardless of what happens, it's going to continue to chip away at what is causing some of the fundamental issues that you have with your migraines.
Well, basically the premise is that
because this is not going to stop trapped emotions and things that trigger coming from within.
Yeah. Well, but here's the thing. When I had the neck pain, that whole sinus was completely congested on that side. Which
you're still going to have congestion. It's just not going to swell to the level of what it is.
Right.
Now.
So basically it's the anatomy of the sinuses that the structure of that is causing the nerve to be pinched, that trigeminal nerve in the brain. So anytime there's any sort of inflammation within the sinuses, it's triggering that nerve, causing the migraine. Well, if you have the structure, if you have yourself repaired, that's the proper word I'm trying to look for. If you have yourself repaired, then you're going to have inflammation. Anytime you have inflammation in the body, you're going to have your sinuses get congested just a little bit, some more than others. Well, I'll still have that congestion, but it won't be so severe that it now triggers the migraine. That is the idea.
No,
okay.
I'm excited. Tomorrow, game on. It begins.
Avery had her surgery and something magical happened with her.
She's back though.
I know. She's back, damn it. She was the sweetest kid ever. For like, 2 weeks?
2 weeks, yeah.
We were like, oh my gosh,
Sweet.
I love life. Like, she's so sweet.
Considerate and compassionate.
Oh my gosh.
And loving.
And we've bonded.
thankful.
We've bonded. Like, she's just laid up and recovering. And so, needing me, and I'm rubbing her feet and, helping her. And I'm, got all this empathy. And she's just been like, we've spent time together. It's been amazing. But this morning, Trey and I looked at each other and we were like, oh my God. You and I were both looking at each other like,
I was like, what?
She's back. She was.
But she did catch herself.
I think she did.
She did catch herself, and then she kind of throttled back down. She still fights everything and combats everything and has an opinion on everything and tries to control everything. And for the life of me, I do not know where she gets that.
She's me and you. More you.
More you.
What? Oh, please. Trey.
You literally just gave a confession that you were going to stop controlling me.
You have tried to control everything that I'm doing as Bart when it comes to work.
I don't give a crap what you do. As long as you're happy, do it.
Oh, little Trey Angel.
But if it affects me, though, I'm going to have an opinion on it.
Yeah. Every idea or dream that I've had when it comes to my career, you have.
What are we sitting here doing right now? Do you remember our first episode? Did I want to be here?
Who is the one you are most confrontational?
Confrontational and controlling are two different things.
I am sweet and innocent.
They start with a C, doesn't make them the same thing. You are sweet and innocent, my ass.
You are, Trey. I'm sorry. Okay.
We were talking about Avery.
If you're at Bulldog and you're listening to this, I think y'all know there's good cop and bad cop. Who's the good cop? My brother. Who's the bad cop? Trey. Mm-hmm. Trey is the one that he is the, everybody knows. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying. Luke's
Don't
the more.
Get Trey hold.
Huh?
That's what it's called.
What's it called?
Trey hold.
Oh, so there's a name?
Well,
okay. Yeah.
It was created a long time ago.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm not that man anymore.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
You know what we were talking about though was our daughter's issues and how about 80% of it was caused by you and 20% was me.
Oh please!
So
oh my gosh!
that.
Okay, yeah. Well, all right. So we'll be back. Hopefully next week when you hear me, I won't be congested because we have a guest on the show.
Are you going to be able to do it next week?
Well, we record on Tuesday. Podcast released on Thursday, so I sure hope so. So,
okay.
All right. Thanks everybody for listening, and have a wonderful week. And please pray that these migraines are gone forever. Bye.
Oh, and to all the people out there, happy Valentine's.
Oh, yeah. Happy Valentine's Day. I hope you get more than dry erase markers.
And a charger. And some flowers.
That charger, that charger is going to quit working because it's off-brand.
You'll lose it before it goes
It's an
bad.
Off-brand. It's going to be like, this is not recognized by your device.
I thought we were closing out.
Okay,
have a wonderful week.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to another episode of According to the Castles with Amy and Trey. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. To stay up to date with the Castles, follow Amy on Instagram @acastles. Until next time, have faith, enjoy life, and love abundantly.